Hello everyone and welcome to my recommendations for the Steam Winter Sale 2018. Today I'm going to be showing you a wide range of games that can all currently be picked up for a bargain. As always, we'll be dividing the video up into three categories: games under £5, games under £10, and games over £10. So let's jump straight into it with games under £5. So kicking us off today is Super Meat Boy, a rock-hard platformer that will have you sprinting, wall jumping and dodging past deadly obstacles to reach the end of the level and not only beat it, but in the best time possible. The controls here are super tight, and even though you'll find yourself dying over and over again on certain levels, covering them in your meaty blood, you'll never feel like it was an unfair death, and you'll be able to see what you did wrong and hopefully do better next time. So if you're looking for something challenging, at £1.09 or $1.49, Super Meat Boy might be for you. Forced Showdown is next, and this twin-stick shooter incorporates deck building mechanics to add another layer to an already solid experience. Cards will be drawn throughout your arena runs, and they'll give you little upgrades and sometimes much larger boosts that will help you defeat a decent array of enemies and eventually the boss. For me, it's these cards that keep the game interesting, and the small amount of RNG that they add to the experience means there's always something to keep you going back. Forced Showdown is on sale for £4.49 or $5.99. Next up we come to Just Cause 3, a game that I've recommended a lot as it's always going for a really good price. Just Cause 3 offers a massive open world with hundreds of opportunities for destruction and chaos, and the game gives you all the tools you'll need to make that chaos happen. Now I know that Just Cause 4 has just come out, but honestly if you're new to Just Cause, this game will serve you just as well if not better, and at a fraction of the price. Now as I always say with this one, there is a story and there are set missions, but really the main fun of the game is the fun that you make for yourself. So if you're the type of gamer who's more than happy wingsuiting around a beautiful map and just blowing everything up without too much context, then this might be a great game for you. Just Cause 3 currently comes in at just £2.69 or $4.49. So from a massive game with tons of content to the shortest and cheapest game on this list in the form of Refunked. Now when I say that this is a short game, I really mean it. My first playthrough, for example, took me 15 minutes. But with the relaxing platforming gameplay as you watch the world build itself around you and plenty of replayability, I feel that for just 65p or 98 cents, this one is more than worth it. On then to the oldest game for today as we come to Fallout New Vegas. Now, a lot of Fallout fans will tell you that they prefer Fallout 3, and some of the more hardcore fans may say that Fallout 2 is the best. But for me, New Vegas is the high point of the series. And while it does show its age a little bit in the graphics department, the core RPG gameplay here is so much fun. With interesting choices to make, quests with real depth, and a world that has character by the bucketful. Now personally, I always like to play a charisma heavy build, trying to talk my way through the world, but if you're more of a fighter, looking for a bit of action, this game has absolutely got you covered. And the slightly clunky gunplay is made up for by a fully functioning VAT system. So, for, in my opinion, one of the best open world games ever made, at just £2.63 or $3.29, if for some reason you've never picked this one up, now is a great time. Moving on, we have Beat Cop, a game that will see you take control of Jack Kelly as he starts his new job as a beat cop after being demoted from detective. You've been framed for a couple of crimes, and while completing your daily duties from simply ticketing cars with parking violations to making sure that the neighbourhood ticks over nicely by sorting out some more major incidents, you'll also have to complete story objectives and make sure you have enough cash to sort out things in your personal life. Inspired by 80s cop shows, there's a good amount of character in this game, and the storyline and choices that you make from day to day make Beat Cop a highly entertaining game with more depth than it initially seems. Beat Cop is on sale for £2.87 or $3.74. Up next, we have a couple of games I have recommended multiple times, so I've put them into the same section, and I'll try to keep this very brief. Deus Ex Human Revolution and Mankind Divided offer interesting RPG gameplay with multiple ways to attack your objectives, either through stealth, talking your way out of trouble, or just a good old-fashioned head-on assault. Human Revolution depicts a world in which some humans are choosing to become augmented, and then Mankind Divided shows us the world segregated between these augmented humans and the so-called naturals, as orgs are treated as subhuman by a lot of the population. Now, as I said, I've recommended these games a lot before, but they're some of my personal favourites, and at just £1.94 or $2.99 for Human Revolution, and £2.99 or $4.49 for Mankind Divided, I feel that these deals are just too good to leave off this list. If you only want to dip your toes into the water though and test out just one of these games, I'd recommend going with Human Revolution. While it is an older game with more dated graphics, it offers a better experience overall in my opinion. On then to Kingdom New Lands, a strategy and survival game with absolutely beautiful pixel graphics. You'll play as a monarch slowly building up your fortress and your population, gaining warriors and workers in order to survive as long as possible. This is generally a very simple game that can mostly be played using only a few buttons, as the gameplay comes in the decisions you make and your resource management. And for the most part, this makes Kingdom New Lands feel like quite a relaxing game. But after a few wrong moves when you're suddenly being swarmed by enemies, things can feel a bit more frantic. This one takes a little bit of learning and the tutorial system isn't fantastic, or in fact really is effectively non-existent, especially for someone like me who initially invested in, say, lots of watchtowers without having archers to fill them. But after a couple of runs, you will quickly get the hang of things. Kingdom New Lands is on sale for £3.29 or $4.49. Moving on, we have Life is Strange: The Complete First Season. A story-based game that has a lot of similarities with Telltale games, but this is added to by time-rewinding mechanics that make for interesting puzzle sections, and choices that have a real effect on the conversations you have and the story itself. Now, with this sort of game, you obviously need an interesting story and well-written characters, and Life is Strange has both, with most of the people you come across feeling realistic with their own emotions and motivations. As with all story games, I don't want to give too much away here, but as I said in my autumn sale video, if you're not sure yet if you'll be into this one, the first episode is free. So you can go and give it a try, and then with the sale going on until January 3rd, you've got plenty of time to decide whether or not you want to pick up the full season. Life is Strange: The Complete Season is available for £3.19 or $3.99. Next is Domina, a game that will see you manage your own ludus, training up gladiators and then sending them in to fight in the arena, with an awesome amount of pixely gore. And it all builds up towards an end of year tournament. Now, you can take control of these gladiators with an ability that you learn fairly early on in the game, but for me it's far more fun to let the AI do the work, but the option to be more active in this one is there if you want to take it. Now, there is some RNG here in that you can see your top fighter that you've worked on and built up for a long time dying in a fight that they really should have won. But for me, that's what makes the game interesting, as otherwise you'd just be guaranteed a win if you understand the management mechanics. And with this randomness, there's a good amount of replayability here, as I personally have 22 hours in this game. So for the £3.49 or $4.99 price tag, I think that Domina is more than worth it. Almost at the end of this section now as we come to our penultimate game, and I've gone for Interplanetary Enhanced Edition. This turn-based strategy game will see you building up your own planet with defensive structures, intel gathering telescopes, mines, power plants and guns, and then taking shots at other planets in a targeting phase that requires predictive aim, as those planets that you're aiming at will move in orbit as you fire. And alongside that, your missiles will be affected by gravity, making aim even more unpredictable. Each match takes a few hours, and there's a fairly extensive tech tree that means that things never get boring, as you'll always have a new building to construct and new more powerful weapons to fire. Now, this one can be played single player against AI, and it's still definitely fun. But if you've got a couple of friends to play with, it becomes infinitely more entertaining, as you try to outdo each other and watch your shots either land and deal massive damage, or swing round their planet's gravitational pull and go out in unpredictable directions. Interplanetary Enhanced Edition is on sale for £2.74 or $3.74. So the final game for this section, and it's one of my favourites as we come to Dishonored. This is one of the best stealth action games available, giving the player the choice of low or high chaos, and that choice has genuine consequences. Now, I talk about this one a lot, so I'll leave this very brief, and there will come a day when I leave this off of my lists, but at just £1.99 or $2.49, for me, I just couldn't ignore this one. So, starting us off in the under £10 section, we have Pyre. an RPG with a deep and interesting story and world, paired with a beautiful graphical style. The game is divided into two main parts, with story sections in a visual novel style that allow you to make choices and find out more about the world you inhabit, and then the ritual sections that have you compete against other teams in a slightly unusual sport, where you'll attempt to put out your opponent's pyre by scoring into it. Honestly, it's quite difficult to describe, but it plays out in a really enjoyable way, and the mechanics of taking out your opponents, jumping to evade them, and losing your own players for sections of the match make for a surprisingly deep game. In many games that try to do what this game's done, having two distinct sections, one of those sections will be far stronger than the other. But in the case of Pyre, the story is superb and the gameplay is extremely fun too. And at only £6.19 or $7.99, I feel that Pyre is a great buy. Up next is Planet Coaster, a theme park management game that takes inspiration from the classics like Roller Coaster Tycoon, but modernises and adds to it. But don't expect anything revolutionary here, this is more of an evolution of a tried and tested formula. You can expect a good variety of scenarios and rides, along with tools that allow you to express your own creativity in its sandbox settings. And if you're the type of person who likes tweaking things until they're absolutely perfect, there's potentially hundreds of hours of content here. Planet Coaster comes in at £7.19 or $10.79. On now to a nice game to have if you're getting together with family and friends over the holidays, as we come to the Jackbox Party Pack 2. Now the truth is that you wouldn't really go wrong with any of the other Jackbox games either, but for me this is the best one, as it features two of my favourite games in Fibbage 2, which will have you coming up with creative answers to fool other players, and Bidiots, where you'll be drawing art and then bidding against everyone else for it, with the twist being that each player has different information as to which pieces of art are worth what amount of money. And this leads to some very tense bidding and trying to read the room. These party games can be enjoyed by players of all ages, and it's nice to get everyone enjoying themselves quickly and easily. Jackbox 2 is on sale for £9.49 or $12.49. Moving on, we come to my second favourite game of all time in XCOM 2. This turn-based strategy game follows on from 2013's XCOM Enemy Unknown, assuming that you failed in your bid to halt the alien invasion, and now they are an occupying force. XCOM 2 will have you fight back against them as a small guerrilla army, building your base, training up your soldiers and customizing them, giving them their own personalities, and hopefully in the end, triumphing over the alien forces. New aliens, more customization, and new mechanics such as ambushing enemies really push the game forward from its predecessor and make this an absolute must-have as far as I'm concerned. So for £8.74 or $14.99, I feel XCOM 2 is well worth a look. Next is Stardew Valley, where you'll leave behind the city life to restore your grandfather's rundown old farm, planting crops, fishing, mining, and plenty more. Now, if you're looking for an all-action game, well, you won't get it here. Instead, Stardew offers relaxing gameplay and a real sense of progress, as every day you achieve something that moves you forward. There's plenty to do and discover here, and interesting characters to interact with too. And if you're like me, you can just sink hours and hours into just relaxing while fishing, not worrying about what you catch, just enjoying the calming experience. So if you're looking for something a bit more easygoing from the winter sale, at £8.24 or $11.49, Stardew Valley might be for you. Up next is Mother Gunship, a bullet hell first-person shooter game that has you taking on a massive number of enemies with its intense, fast-paced gameplay, jumping and running to dodge everything they throw at you. That gameplay alone would make this one a solid recommendation, but the best thing about this game is the guns. Rather than give you a selection of a few bland choices to fight with, Mother Gunship gives you gun parts and lets you build your own wacky creations. And we're not just talking like extended mags on an assault rifle here or anything like that. No, we're talking about things like lava mine shooting chainsaw blade guns and spike ball launchers. There's multiple connectors, barrels and caps here for you to make your own crazy combos, and taking these beastly weapons into the already solid combat really makes this game just so much fun. Mother Gunship is on sale for £9.99 or $12.49. On then to Rise of the Tomb Raider, probably my favourite of the rebooted series. Rise takes up the mantle from 2013's Tomb Raider and adds a more open feeling to the gameplay, along with a big improvement in what were already pretty damn decent graphics. A mix of large set pieces, solid gunplay, stealth and puzzles, along with a strong storyline, makes for a really enjoyable package here, and if you're looking for a well-rounded and action-packed experience, at £7.99 or $11.99, Rise of the Tomb Raider might scratch that itch. Almost done with this section now as we come to War for the Overworld. Now, for anyone who has fond memories of Dungeon Keeper as I do, this should be instantly recognisable. And boy does it hit those nostalgia notes hard. With its dungeon building, similar aesthetic, and even bringing back the original voice actor to do the narration, which adds immensely to the atmosphere of the game, this one really feels like a true successor to the Dungeon Keeper series. And with EA not exactly keen on giving us an official sequel, I feel that War for the Overworld does a damn good, if not perfect, job of giving fans of the series an updated version of a beloved game. And it also offers a chance for players who missed out on Dungeon Keeper or are simply too young to remember that game, an opportunity to get in on the fun. War for the Overworld is on sale for £5.74 or $7.49. So on to the final section then, and the first game in the over £10 category is The Council. This story-driven game will have you placed on a remote island with some of the most influential people in history, as you try to push your own agenda, including finding your mother, a very powerful woman who has gone missing. Now, what sets The Council apart from a lot of other story-driven games is not only the setting and characters, which are extremely interesting to me at least, but the fact that your choices have huge impacts, and this starts right from the beginning of the game, as you'll choose a class and build up your perks, which will open up new conversation choices and allow you to get the better of other characters in the multiple confrontations that happen throughout the game. So whether you're looking for a rich, interesting story, or a game where your choices actually matter, coming in at £12.99 or $14.99, The Council might be the game for you. Next is Rainbow Six Siege Standard Edition, my personal favourite shooter of the last few years. Instead of backing off and going down a more casual route, Rainbow Six Siege caters more to players who are looking for something more hardcore, with harsh mechanics like every gun being a one-shot headshot kill. The depth here is what has kept this game going strong since its 2015 launch, as even after several hundred or even thousand hours, you still won't have thought of every way to beat your opponent or seen every strategy in the game, especially as new operators and tweaks are constantly evolving the meta. Now, there is a cheaper version of this game available with the Starter Edition, but for me that version is far too grindy. And for just a couple of pounds more, you'll have a much more enjoyable experience with the Standard Edition. Rainbow Six Siege Standard Edition is on sale for £10.19 or $11.99. Next up is Civilization 6, which takes on the classic gameplay we've come to expect from the Civ series, allowing you to build up your empire, advancing your technology, spreading your religion and crushing your enemies, and adds to the formula with its district mechanic that gives your cities a real feeling of sprawl, as now they'll occupy multiple hexes. This also adds a new strategy layer, as players will have to consider adjacency bonuses when placing their cities and their districts, in order to get the most out of their empire. Now, while the characters, units and buildings are historic in Civ 6, they are in no way meant to interact realistically, and part of the fun of Civ, in my opinion, is sending an army consisting of modern units to face down some spearmen and archers. You honestly wouldn't go wrong though if you went for Civ 5 or even Civ 4, and you'd save some cash into the bargain. But I did really enjoy my time with Civilization 6, and at £14.99 or $17.99, I think it's worth picking up. Yakuza 0 is next, and what initially seems like a solid brawler with an interesting story quickly develops into so much more. And don't get me wrong here, the story is still great, and the fighting is a lot of fun, but there's so many amazing side quests that you can easily forget about the story for hours and hours. Whether it's the brilliant karaoke rhythm game, the business side quest that sees you become a real estate mogul, or my personal favourite, the Pocket Circuit Racing, where you build your own cars, collecting parts and testing them out on the track, there's just so much to do in this game, and any serious tone that you might have been expecting is quickly overtaken by a wacky and fun game that crams in so much content for the price. Neither of the two maps in this one are huge, but they show that a huge map isn't necessary for a content-filled game, and at £10.04 or $13.39, Yakuza 0 is a great buy. Almost at the end now as we come to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I think this is the first time I've recommended an AC game in one of these videos. Odyssey takes you back to ancient Greece, meeting characters like Socrates and Hippocrates, and gives you an absolutely massive open world to explore. Now I know that I just said when talking about Yakuza that a huge world isn't necessary, but fortunately there's still a lot to do here. Some of the game does feel rather grindy, so if you're not okay with doing some filler quests, then maybe avoid this one. But if you are okay with some repetitive questing like I am, Odyssey has a lot of content to offer, and builds on the base set by Assassin's Creed Origins. So if you're looking for something for a deep dive this winter sale, Assassin's Creed Odyssey has a lot to offer, even if it is the most expensive game on this list, coming in at £24.99 or $29.99. And finally we'll end, as we pretty much always do, with my favourite game of all time. The Witcher 3 Game of the Year Edition offers an amazing open world with superb quests, quality graphics, hundreds of hours of content, and with this edition you get the Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone expansions, which add even more to the package. I won't go on about this one, as you could probably make a clips video of me talking about it that would last well over an hour at this stage. But if you have been putting this one off, at £13.99 or $19.99, now is a great time to give this the try that it truly deserves. Anyway, that about does it for another Steam sale. Obviously, these are only my recommendations. There's only so much room in these videos, and I haven't played every game in existence. So if you have any others to suggest, please leave them down in the comments to help other people find great games. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful in any way, I'd be very appreciative if you'd click that like button down below, and subscribe for more like this if you haven't already. And whatever you're celebrating over the next week or so, or if you're celebrating nothing at all, I hope you all have a great holiday season. Thanks for watching, I've been Nathan, and I'll see you next time.